Instagram, huh?
Mr. Nadiro.
So if anyone's watching this right now from home or at work or at school or in the park, wherever you are,
Nothing.
um, yeah, this is a really cool Instagram. Um, Nadira, you and I got to know each other from this aspect right here, and I'm going to zoom in on SolidWorks Champion, um, SolidWorks Champions program for those of you who don't know. But you're also a user group leader. You're a 3D Experience EU champion, mechanical engineer. I'm kind of wondering like what don't you do? Do a lot of stuff, but definitely, and I'll this is kind of the funny part about this that I'm on the desktop version of Instagram. Usually people are on the app, but there's your Instagram, and then you have it tagged here. There's a lot of really good, and you have a YouTube channel too, which we'll give a shout out to, before we get going. But we have a little bit of a preview here for this episode. There's the fan design, and then we have a bunch of other content here. You're a great follow, is what I want to say. Anyone who's interested in following Nadiro on Instagram, we have Solid Nadiro and then Mr. Nadiro. You have your app mentioned there. Your LinkedIn as well. Just kind of scrolling down. I like this a lot. This was a post that was just common SolidWorks hotkeys with the control key down, and then you have them labeled by the keyboard shortcut, Control plus whichever key this is, and then this one, which is without any modifiers, so without the control key selected, which I thought was really cool. But you have a really nice Instagram. This one, Moon Knight head modeling on X shape. So you have your YouTube playlist right here, so you can check that out. Is this one of your favorite things you've ever created inside of X shape? This looks really cool. I like how you did the eyes. Was this one of your favorites?
Moonlight. Moonlight project is my favorite project.
It looks really nice. I like the texture as well. Besides even just the eyes. Yeah, it looks super nice. Yeah, those of you who are here, welcome here. Actually going to pivot over to your YouTube. This is actually how I found out some of, again, we knew each other through the Champions program, but even just seeing some of your uploads, like I mentioned, you have playlists over here, so you can check those out. The Moon Knight project, so you can see creating an animation on Visualize Connected. We'll talk about this a little bit later, but yeah, it's interesting. Anyone, and I gave you a shout out. I maybe you saw on the What's New SolidWorks 2023 episode, but anyone who's using the Maker Edition. All the stuff's in it. You have SolidWorks as 3D Experience SolidWorks. You have as part of that Visualize Connected. So Nadiro has a nice tutorial on creating an animation in that suite on his YouTube. Then the Maker project here that we'll review, which with some extra tidbits. So like I often say for the SolidWorks YouTube channel, make sure to like and subscribe. But in this case, I need it for Nadiro's channel. So yeah, I am definitely going to subscribe, and make sure we get this in there too. Notification bell, I got to get that right. So make sure that we get the new content as you post it. Got some Arm for All stuff here, so you're showing off how you made your Arm for All contest design.
Yes.
So yeah, lots of good content. I'm sure there's more coming. But like you said, super excited to get going with this episode. Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am ready to.
I'm ready. I'm so excited to have you on. So, everyone, welcome to SolidWorks Live Design. We're going to officially kick off this episode now. If you're new to this program, we just did SolidWorks Live yesterday. launching SOLIDWORKS 2023. We had our big What's New episode, so you can check out all the recordings on YouTube, on LinkedIn, which is where I know many of you watch SOLIDWORKS live these days. It's always great to see you guys in the chat and the comments. But with live design, which is a series you're watching here today, it gives you a chance to see how members of our team here at SOLIDWORKS and of course members of our user community like Nadiro take advantage of different SOLIDWORKS, different 3D experience work solutions to make products out there in industry, or make maker designs. Make something that just makes their lives a little bit easier, or maybe in Nadiro's case a little bit cooler with the fan design. We just got done showing some of Nadiro's social profiles, so you can find Nadiro on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. Once again, you're a SOLIDWORKS champion, you're a user group leader, you're a mechanical engineer, and you're tuning in here from Turkey. We are, I believe, I'm here in Pennsylvania in the United States, so I think we're about 7 hours apart. But it's great that we can connect virtually. So, Nadiro, I think you were saying you wanted to start off with showing us a little bit of the fan design, right?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let's get to it. That'd be great.
Can I show?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at your screen and let's talk about that design. I'm excited about it.
Okay. Can you see? Welcome everyone.
Take a look. Yeah. Cool.
Welcome.
Yeah. I see xDesign.
Yes. Today I will redesign my fun project with you. First, I found two brushless motors while walking on the road. They were working.
Wait. Before we go ahead, while walking on the road, you said?
Yes.
That's wow. I didn't know that part. That's awesome. So cool.
Yes. And they were working after renewing their bearing. So I decided to something with these engines. The main theme was that the city I live in is the warmest city in Turkey. I wanted to make a battery-powered fan, and I started designing with you.
Very nice. So how warm? What is the temperature? How hot can it get where you are in Turkey?
In last summer, 40 degree Celsius and 50 degree Celsius between.
Okay.
Very hot.
Pretty hot. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Over here in the States, there are certain parts of Texas that, in the state of Texas, that can routinely get that hot. We were there actually earlier this year when we went to Titans of CNC. Yeah, hot, very hot.
Very hot. Yes. First, I faced the top plane and started by drawing. Sorry. You can top
plane.
Yes. Yeah. Drawing a slot. Yes.
Okay. So the idea here, and you can keep going. I'm just kind of thinking about it. So you find these propeller blades, right?
Yes.
And then you're like, okay, how could I actually, taking everyone inside the mind of you, mechanical engineer, designer, wanting to solve for a real problem in your everyday life. Simple design, sure, but like it's pretty funny because you're repurposing these parts. A lot of people would see, they'd find something, on the road or wherever, and they would just think, oh, that stinks. Okay, throw it in the trash. But you have more an inventive mind, right? It's like, I want to take this and how can I use this to solve a problem? I think that's really cool to talk about. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I made a 3.5 millimeters inward offset using the offset command. Mm-hmm. This value is sufficient for the PLA filament for 3D printers.
Great point. So you're exactly. So that's something that I learned in your YouTube video, which I think I found initially when you posted in the Made in 3D community, which is where a lot of makers post their designs that are using SolidWorks or xDesign. Yeah, so I saw that you had 3D printed it. So yeah, so you're kind of thinking about the thickness, the eventual thickness of the design. Cool. Following so far.
Yes, yes. Now I draw a circle as the diameter of the motor. The important point here is that 3D printers have a tolerance value between 0.3 and 0.25 millimeters. I am drawing these values here without writing them down. And the purpose of the big circle is to create spaces for airflow enter. Yes.
Okay, I see that. So this design so far is pretty symmetric, right? So I assume that you're trying to make an opening crevice for both of the propellers, right, to actually come out. Because I've seen the design at least, your eventual build. So okay, so you have it on the one side right now.
Yes. I extended the other line and offset the 4 millimeters. Like this. And again. Yes.
So you're trying to protect yourself from if you're reaching over for a drink, making sure you don't cut your fingers on the propeller blades when they're going.
Yes.
I see where you're going with this. Okay. Nice. Trimming the entities.
Okay, cut to trim, yes. And circle pattern to sketch. Sorry. 19-degree. Yes. And again, trim.
Interesting approach. You saved just as you're going. I want to talk a little bit about what you just did, and I think it's pretty cool. You actually you pattern. You did a circular pattern of what was like the horizontal kind of strip, which eventually will be like that little area of almost like protective material, like we were saying.
Yes.
So you did a circular pattern 90 degrees, and you'd already trimmed it, right? So the order of operations was pretty cool. So you already trimmed it. So then since it's aligning to a circle in its center. Right, we're rotating it 90 degrees, and you know that that's going to match up directly on the other sort of quadrant. So cool. Yeah, that's a really good approach.
Yes, this area airflow enter for area. We will after creating it simple way. I will mirror it to opposite side. Like this.
I see gesture to fill it. That's interesting kind of xDesign feature there. Saw that.
Yes.
This is looking at the chat too. Somebody, Joe Lance, another user group leader, another SolidWorks champion, saying it's just funny. We're all in different time zones. Gotta run. Want to listen in a few minutes before dinner. So I'm not sure where Joe is. I know Joe's based in Texas, but he must be somewhere else in the world if it's almost dinner time. maybe he's in Turkey. That could be it.
Yes, maybe.
Cool. So you've mirrored it over. In the meantime, you've mirrored it over to the other side.
Yes. Difficult part of my piece is over. Now I will create a solid body with the sketches I have chosen. Like this.
And Joe is in, just in case you're wondering, Nadiro, Joe is in Italy today.
Chosen.
He's in Italy.
Yes.
Cool. All right, so now we're extruding the body, getting some solid geometry in there.
Yes. And open the sketch view. And again, the extrude command. Okay.
Interesting. Okay, so just for everyone following along, right? You've taken the outer perimeter, which you did the offset sketch of very early, and then
Yes.
you didn't remake another sketch. You just repurposed the first sketch to get that thin wall of material to be extruded above the main body.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. This area propeller chamber visible.
Mhm.
I repeat the same process.
Okay.
Yes. And now convert. I am going to draw this base of the body that I am going to slope using the sketch command. For this, first I select the top surface
Okay.
and open the sketch and convert command. Select this one and okay.
Interesting. So just like SOLIDWORKS, we're seeing, and we saw this pretty apparently in some of your other sketch geometry, but we're getting the sort of in the highlighting, the blue highlighting when you have the closed contour. So we know, okay, you got all the entities, you converted them, and now we're extruding. Cool.
Yes. Yes. Now it's ready to extrude. The important point here is that I say create a new solid body to the shell command.
Mm.
New solid body.
Interesting.
And
So that is a really good point to call out there. In SOLIDWORKS 3D CAD, there's the merge bodies or merge result, right? Here in xDesign, you basically have that button right there where you're able to make a new body and kind of you can acknowledge it as a new component, or like you said, for multi-body
yes,
operations of the same of what will be the same part, right? This is how it's going to be built, a same body, a same part itself. You're just selecting new, and that keeps the body separate for those sorts of traditional multi-body commands, like a shell, right? Because eventually 3D printing it, and that makes perfect sense. I'm glad you called that out. And another thing, before we click a green check, that you mentioned, you're doing a draft, right? So, this allows you to kind of take that outer profile and taper it. I'm assuming so that you can actually have these propellers blow air at you at a certain angle to keep you cool. So very good.
yes, very useful.
Those of you, by the way, I'm monitoring. I have my phone right here. I'm looking in the chat. Anyone who has any questions for Nadiro or us here at SOLIDWORKS regarding this design, feel free to enter them into the chat. Once again, thank you guys all for joining us. It's interesting, Nadiro. So speaking, just to take a bit of a break. So you have a YouTube channel. We talked about it earlier. I saw this design on your YouTube channel. We're building this design. We talked about how you've angled it at that 27 degrees angle, so you can get airflow coming out at a very particular
Yes,
angle, right? To keep you cool. It's
yes,
interesting, right? And you're a mechanical engineer, so we're building this shape. Um, I think another thing you did at some point, you actually did airflow analysis, right? You put this inside of flow simulation, right? We won't be showing that during this
yes,
episode today, but again, just to shout out your YouTube channel, if you're interested, that same design we're showing you how to build, and we're talking through the thinking of the design right now. You can go to Nadiro's YouTube channel as well. And yeah, the modeling is sped up, and you don't get the same level of detail in terms of the process and the story and how you thought through the design of Nadiro, but you can see that flow simulation on Nadiro's channel. So I just wanted to shout that out as we go. But sorry for interrupting. I just wanted to, because I thought that was so cool to see, and I thought it was really cool that you did that on your channel.
yes. Height the bottom side.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm using the shell command like 3.5 millimeters.
Awesome. So here's the thing. I love that you hid the body because if anyone's unfamiliar with multi-body commands inside of any CAD
Yes.
package you're using, if it's xDesign, if it's SolidWorks, you get to see very much why you did not merge the bodies on that extrusion, that 27-degree extrusion, because you can shell only this extrusion, only this body. Later on, sure, we might combine them some way, but that allows you to have your CAD software like xDesign not address the base, right? It's not trying to shell the base. The base pretty much is already functionally shelled based on how you extruded it initially. But this allows you to do that downstream. So I think that's hugely important to notice, and definitely a smart and intentional choice. So very cool.
Yes. Convert for air outlet. I create the sketch and cut the body
Okay.
using the convert command again, and extrude cut. Next.
So up
Is
to
it?
next, basically you're saying, right? It's like I don't have to give you a value, just go through it, right? Just go through the next next surface, next area that you find. So we have a full
Yes.
cutout. So air can finally get out of out of the system, which is good, right? Necessary design choice.
Yes. From here on, it's very easy. I will just draw the rectangle and create the solid body.
Okay.
A new solid body. And I will create the plane. 80 millimeters upscale. Yes. Create the rectangle. And consider the surface. Yes. Okay.
Cool. And it's interesting to note. So you've made a plane there at a very specific area, right? And then you basically made that line, kind of the innermost line of this extrusion of material that you're going to make now, collinear with the sort of exact location where your initial body here, right? The tapered body cuts through that plane.
Yes.
So xDesign understands exactly where to put that. Okay, very cool.
Okay. Select the body, and the important things, new solid body
Yeah, there you
is
go. Your new
is
trick.
very important.
All right, so we got that. Okay,
Yeah.
so interesting. So why are we doing this, right? Sure. If you hadn't if you hadn't made or designed it so that this bit of material were there, I'm sure it could lay flat somehow. But what you're thinking in terms of why you're designing it this way is because eventually you want this to be able to lay at a certain angle, sort of lay almost parallel to you, right? So you're making this extrusion so that it can lay flat on the desk, right? Is that right?
Yes, right.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so now we're shelling
Yes.
it just like before, 3 millimeters thickness.
Yes.
Cool. Okay.
And the shell body is here. And the other one, combine command, because three parts is new solid body, and we have to solid body, and the section.
It's an
Yes.
important point, right? Because you can think
Yes.
of it this way, right? If you, just for those of you watching at home, you mentioned, Nadiro, you had three bodies, right? In
Yes, right.
CAD, it's hard to tell. You could look for the edges and where edges appear and where edges do not, and if you know what to look for, you can kind of tell. But it pretty much what we had there was, even though it looked like it was one part that you were making, because you were selecting the new option and we were keeping them separate so that we could shell only certain regions of the design at a certain point, those were basically separate bodies that were sort of just mushed up against each other, right? They
Right.
weren't considered a unified body. So if you were to go to print that, or if you were to look at it physically, they wouldn't have been united
Yes.
yet. So the combine command is great for those sorts of things. And now, downstream as we continue to add, maybe cuts or extra extrusions, whatever you're going to do from here, you actually have that area to that single body to perform, future operations on. So yeah, I really wanted to call that out because you were very strategic about when you did your combine.
Yes. And the create the hole for the cable entities. I cut the extrude 8 millimeters, and I will select the plane and create sketch 45 4.5 and 6 millimeters hole. Yes.
Just said hello in the chat there.
Yes. Um, I can select this one and yes.
Cool. So you're with what you did there, sketch definition wise, you're just trying to keep it aligned at the center.
Yes.
Okay.
And the up the next geometry. Yes. And the height the sketch again and cut the little circle.
Okay.
Control to
So
all.
like you mentioned, you're basically making these ports, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And you can see the cut sections.
Yeah, let's take a look at that because it's a good idea. Through this view, yeah, and that's awesome. So when you did the circular extrusion, you did up to next. It basically knew to go right to that sort of tapered face internally. So it's circular extrusion, then it kind of stops right where it should, based on the design intent. Very very neat.
Yes. This was the designs of my project while I am putting the finishing touches. What do you think it? What do you think about it?
I mean, I think it's great. It's certainly what you want. I mean, so we're adding some fillets here. Again, making sure that everything's kind of rounded out where it should be. And one thing I wanted to know too is on that sort of the solid extrusion that you did there. A lot of times, especially when we're starting out with a CAD package, we want to focus on things like order of operations, right? It's like, okay, a lot of times it's best, and you kind of followed it. It's like do your extrusions first, and then do your cuts, right? But there are certain points where, just like you showed with the insertion of these cable ports, where you have to do certain cuts before you do certain extrusions. So you being able to do that extrusion there and showing us, an area where, yes, it's not always the case that you're doing all your cuts and then all your extrusions and then all your cuts, right? It's like there are certain cases where you need to make sort of an insertion of material after you do a cut. So now, kind of following more with traditional design intent, you're adding your fillets right at the end, kind of on the exterior to round things out as looks like you're prepared to finish it up, right?
Yes, it's finished.
Cool. So you have so on your YouTube channel, and all this, by
Yes.
the way, I see a question in the chat about X Shape versus SolidWorks, and we could talk a little bit about that. Uh, you're using xDesign, right? This has all been done inside of SolidWorks
Yes.
xDesign.
Yes, I am using the xDesign, but I will using the Xshape. Xshape is very good programs for me.
Yeah, you use I think the superhero or the helmet or the mask that we were talking about in the lead into the episode. I think you're using X shape for to make that, right?
Yes, right.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So Waris asked asked what are the differences between X shape and SolidWorks? So it's interesting. You know, I think for starters, and it depends on what you're doing. You know, it's the right tool for the right job or the right tool for the right task. But with regards to X shape can often be used in a complementary fashion. I think with xDesign
Yes,
and or SolidWorks, right?
right.
X shape, you know, let's focus here, like on xDesign, what you're just using, Nadiro, right? We're seeing a lot of common tools, so some differences, right? Like gesture to fill it. We showed that there. That was different than some of the features you might see in SolidWorks. You're able to use xDesign on pretty much any device, right? You're right now we can't see it because you have your screen maximized, but you're in Google Chrome, like you're in a web browser, so you can go on your phone and it just loads right there.
Yes,
A lot of differences, a lot of similarities though. I think with X shape, and you just pulled it up, took 2 seconds, right? Um,
right.
a lot of times we're not really starting so much from sketch geometry. We're not really just, you know, not really going and making a sketch and extruding and then cutting, cutting away material with sketches and then filling. You know, we're kind of starting out with these almost blobs or primitives of material. You know, think like a sphere or a trapezoid. You can even start from like a 2D shape, like a a little rectangle, and then basically you're taking faces like you see on this introductory graphic on the X-Shape app splash screen, and you're pulling at those faces, or pulling at or pulling at a set of faces, or a set of boundary edges, and you're doing a variety of operations to get what is naturally a curvature continuous object or creation. So anything that is more kind of more of a traditional industrial design shape, an organic shape, like you see here with this helmet. Sure, you can make it inside of xDesign or SolidWorks 3D CAD, but oftentimes, you're able to make a machinable or an injection moldable surface
Yes,
using this sort of tool a
3D
lot
print.
easier because it's just like it's digital clay. One of my colleagues, Gian, always says it's digital clay. You're kind of doing digital sculpting. So, yeah, great question. And we have a lot of material on that. Actually, for those of you in the chat who are curious about this, Nadiro, you'll go into an example here in a moment. But even in the episode that we had yesterday on SolidWorks Live with what's new for SolidWorks 2023, there was a section kind of right in the middle. One of our colleagues, Noah, went into how you can use X-Shape with xDesign and or SolidWorks 3D CAD. So definitely check that out.
Yes, my opinion, Eggshape is ahead of the sub-D programs thanks to its easy features. First, you can easily transfer the products you design collaboratively to other cloud-based designs applications. For example, xDesign, Xframe, Xsheet Metal, or SolidWorks. For example, you have an electronic board and a sensor, and you want to make a beautiful shell on 3D printer. Xshape will help you a lot there. If your hobby is making RC cars or model aircraft,
Mm-hmm.
Xshape is still with you. Here you can build a beautiful aircraft body and control it from a flow simulations. And you can a lot of create configurations. Moreover, you can use Xshape from your phone like other 3D experience applications.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's interesting. There's some there are examples online like your YouTube channel. You have examples of doing stuff like that. We'll look at another example in a moment, right? But yeah, there's a really good example of this that we had at 3D Experience World 2020. So there's another YouTuber who I'm good friends with. The YouTube channel is Impact Props. So if you go there, Brad Thompson, who runs that channel, he made sort of an Iron Man looking helmet. It was based off an artist rendering of it was like a blue and black colored Iron Man esque helmet. He saw it on Instagram and was like, oh, like this is a beautiful drawing that this artist made, and then it's like, hey, what if I just made this? You know, I made the actual helmet. And that's kind of what he did. I mean, you know, there are certain parts like certain cutouts and like the ears are very kind of blocky, right? So he used xDesign to just do a simple extrude of a shape. But most of it was a Apache sub D body, just like pushing, pulling, getting the right shape. You know, imported sketch pictures, which you know those of you who've used SolidWorks to make more organic designs, you might be used to that kind of thing, or maybe aerospace parts, right? And that's more or less what Brad did. It's kind of pushing and pulling, and then you know the eyes lit up, which is great. You can see the YouTube video today if you go to Impact Props, but the eyes lit up, so there's certainly some electronics in there. But yeah, just like you're mentioning, it's a good use case. So I'm excited to see what you might show us here.
Yes. Can I create aircraft? Would you like?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that.
Okay, let's design a basic aircraft from X shape.
Cool.
And we can create a file. Yes. First, I add a cylinder to center. And maximize 8 millimeters. Okay.
It's interesting as you go, you know, just to talk over it as you work. You know, so we mentioned it, but you're actually seeing it, right? The starting point often is just what Nadiro did. You know, he's taking a shape, he's putting it inside of the modeling environment, which, like you mentioned, Nadiro, with xDesign, Xshape, other apps like Xframe that you might have seen a little bit less of, XSheetMetal.
Yes.
The X apps themselves, you can import them into SolidWorks. You can collaborate, you know, within SolidWorks and kind of, you know, make models in these different solutions, you know, per, you know, its strengths. But yeah, you're seeing with the X apps, the modeling environment looks very, very similar between the X apps.
Yeah.
So we're starting off with a shape, and like Nadira is doing, you're doing a little bit of customization in terms of the number of faces and the different segments.
Yes.
And usually the shape you're starting off with, right, is the shape that most closely will give you the best result. You know, so you figure like an aircraft, it's tubular, so it makes sense you're starting off, to me at least, with a cylinder.
Yes. I adjust the size as I want, the cylinder. And
Awesome.
okay. And I will rotate the center point 19 degree.
So you're making good use of the ruler too. You know, the degree increments. So people often say it's like if you're using not even X shape necessarily, but if you're you know
Yes.
surface modeling or something that people would say is surface modeling, right? We're starting off with a subdivision surface. It is airtight, but you know you're still wanting to scale it, like you said. You want it to be a certain size. We're still working with numbers in a way. So I wanted to point that out that you're using
It's
that.
specific
Yeah, you're being
number.
specific. You're being intentional, right? Exactly.
Yes. Yes. And the important things, other be important things, symmetry command.
Mm.
Yes, symmetry on command, the origin I can choose. Okay, I don't. Little bit. Yes, it's
Cool.
working.
So you were looking. So just so everyone knows, you can see, and this is a great tip. Symmetry is awesome. Like this is huge, right? Because you figure you
Yes,
center the body, and then the symmetry command is basically entering you into a bit of a mode, right? Exactly. So think of it as like you're mirroring a sketch, or you're doing dynamic sketch mirroring, where it's like, okay, what you do to one side of the plane happens on the other, but you can see that green line, the green looking edge that kind of wraps around the model. That's giving you that visual feedback that, like I just said, like anything you do on one side is going to happen to the other, so you can maintain that continuity.
Yes, yes. I am going to pull nose part of the little front on.
Cool.
And I do the same in the back point, like this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After minor touch, I take the subd body front of me. Little bit touches.
So I mean, the way you're modeling this, you're basically you're using, your orthogonal views. You're just kind of moving around, and you're rotating, and you're box selecting a lot. I noticed that. You notice when you grab a face or click a face or a set of faces, right? You're using that triad that always pops up, basically to rotate the angle of the faces about, the screen angle that you're at here, or to lengthen them, or shorten that set of faces and edges. So interesting. It's different, right? It's different than a lot of what we saw with you using xDesign, and it's different than a lot of us are SOLIDWORKS users. It's a different way of modeling, but you're able to get these. I know we're pausing a lot to talk about what we're doing, but we're able to get, again, a naturally curvature, continuous surface and body, in these really easy ways, using these easy tools.
Yes. Actually, to be honest, I don't know what to say when I'm designing this, because there is no limit to what you can
Sure.
do while using X-shape.
Yeah, right. It's
Yes.
exactly. There's a lot to be said for that. It can be easier because, especially if you're like you, right? It's like mechanical engineer, so you're basically thinking like rigid rules, and like, okay, this measurement exactly, I'm doing this exact for this exact reason. But yeah, it's a different mindset for sure.
Yes, it's different and useful program.
Yeah.
And we can.
This is interesting what you're doing here. This is called the extrude command, right? So you're basically extruding these faces, and you're giving them more definition and having them sort of pop out. And in this way, I assume, the reason why you're doing this, right? I guess you're setting yourself up to be able to make the wings, right?
Raise, right.
Cool.
And we can. Yes. It's too length for us.
And this
It's
is a
enough.
model,
Is
right?
it
This is a
enough?
model aircraft. I guess, like, if you were, if we were giving, if you needed this to be like an exact length, right? You could make, you still have your planes, right? So you could have done like a sketch and dimension that sketch and made sure that, like, the end tip of it, right, didn't go past a certain length. You can import, like we said, if you had a model you were trying to go off of, like a picture or a drawing, something you sketched out, say on paper. Maybe you can insert a sketch picture before you even put a body in there. So a lot you can do, like you were saying. You can make it exact. You can be, you said specific, right? So there's a lot of ways you can do that. Cool.
Yes. Using the extrude command on
Uh-huh.
the wing.
And you have symmetry. You're doing
Good.
Control Z, so it's like, all right, well, maybe this wasn't exactly what I wanted, so I'll just do Control Z and get out of there.
Yes.
And
Ah,
yeah, you can see.
okay, it's difficult part for
It's
us.
funny. It looks a little bit. We did a live design episode with Jason Poole, like our first episode of the year, where I don't know if you saw it. We did the crocodile, or the alligator monster truck. But yeah, it's looking like it's getting like these eyebrows. It looks cool. Like, if we made this into a toy, my kids would love it.
Okay. I will cut the surface. And okay, not cut. And
I think it looked cool as is, actually. I mean, maybe not the most aerodynamic. I'm not sure we would love to keep it this way, but it looks neat. You've kind of personalized it. You've made it look like a figure. It's cool.
it's not good flow,
Not good flow.
actually.
No, it's driving you crazy. You're like, I can't, I can never see this working.
Yes.
Cool. Just looking at the chat as you continue going here. So X shape is freeform. SOLIDWORKS uses surfaces. Yeah, it's a good way of thinking of it. I mean, so and it's interesting too because xDesign, the app we were just using, you have surface commands there as well, just like in SOLIDWORKS. And it's interesting too because I don't know if you've played with it, but SOLIDWORKS has some freeform capabilities, but you can tell as you're using them, it's just not really made to work that way. You know, it tries to solve it so hard, and it gets a little clunky. So yeah, I agree. It's much easier to be freeform when you're inside X shape here. Cool.
Elevator. I will create the elevator.
And as you're moving along, I have to say the symmetry command has really come in handy. Could you imagine? Could you imagine trying to do this on one side first, and then trying to do the exact same thing on the other side?
Okay, the different symmetry command is working. And okay.
This yeah, you're making what would be, you could try to make actual, like, I know we're working on a maker project right now. If this, especially if this were a toy, I kind of want it now. It just looks cool.
Yes.
So if we weren't talking just now, I know when I'm designing, people are talking to me. It's a lot easier to make little mistakes. I do it all the time. You take a long time to model things, right? When you're talking to someone, it's like you're like, okay, I have to pause, then I have to talk to you, then I have to model again, right? But you probably could have gotten this done, I would say, if you were just doing the normal CAD thing, which is like maybe you're listening to music and you're just modeling probably in like under.
Yes, I agree with you.
So I'm slowing you down. I apologize. It looks really cool. Cool. So you've exited the sub D environment, right? So we have now you're applying colors.
Yes.
It's interesting. So in X shape and xDesign, you can apply colors to, you can see under the selection type here, faces. So you're basically just going in and clicking certain faces and making them certain colors. You have other options you could do, right? Just for everyone watching at home, but you're using the faces option to apply certain colors to certain regions. Cool. Got some red in there, some green.
It's look good.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, topographically, the geometry, yeah, it looks really, really cool. And this started out to remind you, this started out as a cylinder. Like you just had a little cylinder and then you made it into this. Again, you could have done it in less than 5 minutes, I'm sure, if I wasn't bugging you.
Okay.
Those of you watching along in the chat, if you could give this aircraft a name, what would you name it? see if anyone comes up with any clever names, Nadiro, for your model aircraft. Feel free to suggest something we can name it. Cool. All right. So as you're applying colors here, you know, it's interesting. We're getting into more of the aesthetic, right? The aesthetic of design. You're adding colors. Within the Maker Edition, you know, if you're doing Maker projects, you're making toys, you're actually making model aircrafts to eventually put electronics in and to try to fly, right, Nadiro? Or if you're using 3D Experience SolidWorks, right, which contains certain bundles, you know, X-Shape, right, it has SolidWorks in it, it has Visualize, right? The Maker Edition and 3D Experience SolidWorks, you know, at a commercial level, they both have Visualize. So you know, eventually you can make a pretty cool rendering of this aircraft. You know, really cool, realistic photo rendering. It's interesting as you're adding colors to these faces, and as we look at this subdivision surface as it's labeled in the design tree, or you know, we might be thinking of it as a feature tree if we're familiar with SolidWorks naming conventions. Um, yeah, we see a lot of patchy faces, like a lot of face work there. When you go to render this, or you know, even if you change the way that the view displays, those faces are, you know, they don't appear as they do here. It just looks like a very smooth body. You know, as you're modeling, it's really useful to see which face is which. But you know, when you go to photo render it, or you know, again, you can change the view here, turn off the edges. You'll see it's a very, very, very smooth body. See, Mohammed just went into the chat and said nice. So you have a fan. Funny, I say fan, and you were making a fan earlier. People probably thought that I was trying to be funny about that. But you have an admirer, I should say, of your work here. Okay, so you're saving out a file. And yeah, it's interesting. So you can save out, you know, you can store your files here, you know, on the cloud, you know, open them directly, and you can open them anywhere. Open them on your phone that way, right? You don't have to transfer them. But yeah, why don't you? I mean, since we're here, we got about 10 minutes or so. You could even transfer this over to me if you wanted to give me that file.
Yes. Can I send the file?
Yeah, you could send it. So if you go into the conversations feature,
yes,
that's one way of doing it. So many ways, but if you go into the conversations feature in our little chat, I know we were talking earlier. Yeah, you can send me the file. I could open it, try to import it and Visualize, and take a look at, you know, just a little bit of what we might be able to do there.
I will send a few minutes.
Nice. All right, and then I'll show my screen. We can kind of close out there. But yeah, just as a reminder, everyone, Nadiro has a great YouTube channel where Nadiro goes through at least a few different examples of using the version of Visualize that comes with 3D Experience SolidWorks Visualize Connected and making a rendering of a few of his different designs. I'm on my end, just taking a look over at our conversation. See if that comes through here.
I am opening the SolidWorks, and then I can send.
Cool. That's a good note too. Like, I mean, you can open this file up even if, you know, if you export it as SLD XML. You can send it to someone. They can open it up in their version of SolidWorks if they want. You could also, like you were saying, I mean, you could, or like we were saying earlier, if you save it, you know, if you save it to a 3D experience and someone else has access to your collaborative space, you know, like you would in a company, right? You could just open it up from inside of SolidWorks there. Like you could just save an X shape, someone searches for it inside the connector inside of SolidWorks and just opens it. Insert it as a component, you know, if it's a part of a design, like we said, in a larger assembly. Or you could just open it up itself. Like if you wanted to add, you know, different like machining operations or molding operations, whatever it would be based on how you wanted to manufacture, or, you know, again, just eventually use the design purposely. I see our YouTube channel actually just gave a link to your YouTube channel in the chat. So Anyone who's watching along, either on the recording or now, again, just like I did at the head of the episode, as Nadiro goes to send me this file, give Nadiro another subscriber. Just tons of good design content. So we're here in our conversation. So you can see we talked a little bit earlier today. Started our conversation just saying hello, how are you? And now you're sending me this file, which
Yes, I
can hold
sent.
on my end. Cool. All right, so I'm gonna actually show my screen. All right, so I'm gonna do my screen share here. Start sharing, and we will pull up our conversation. Look at that. So if I click on this, I can actually view your file, which is cool. Like, this is something I remember that used to be pretty difficult. So I got a little notification here. So Nadiro just sent me, what do you think about it? So just sent me a message. If I click on this object, we can rotate around. So just in terms of the usefulness of doing this, you can send someone a file. You can, same thing on the forums. If you go on the forums and post a 3D document like this, like Nadiro did, you can open it up, rotate, view it. So you have a viewer on your phone, inherently on your tablet, on your in your browser, on your desktop PC, your MacBook, whatever you're using. So I'm going to go ahead, click the chevron, do download. All right, so it's downloaded here. All right, so I'm going to take a look here. I'm actually just going to open up Visualize here. All right, so I'm in Visualize connected. I'm going to go up to File, Open from this PC, Downloads. All right, so I got the aircraft here. I had a couple different versions of that, actually. All right, so Visualize asking me, okay, so here are my import preferences. Cool. All right, so we got that. So you might be wondering, I see Jesse saying, I'm here for the Visualize. All right, so if I go over to my model tree, I might be wondering, it came in a certain kind of like wonky looking orientation. If you click on the actual model object, you can go to, and I'll zoom in here so you can see a little bit easier, the Transform tab. So you see that. So just like in SOLIDWORKS, we have a tree. Go over to Transform, and I can go ahead and rotate about the Z axis. So I'm kind of looking at it head on now. So you'll see Z plus 90. Easy way to rotate around. You notice if we have an app just based on how we convention the different views, if it's Z up or Y up, right, or X up, it might show differently there. All right, so you see Y, keep flipping it. X, keep flipping it, right? Z. All right, so I'll flip it to right about there. Cool. Then we'll do, okay, so general. So you'll see, we can rotate it just like so. And you'll notice it's kind of like a 3-point faded orientation, right? It's at least that's how we term it in SOLIDWORKS. Like that background, it looks kind of grayish, right? A couple of different things we can do here while we are here. If I go over to appearances, so that's one thing I wanted to show you guys. If we look over at the different areas underneath this sort of primary tree item, you can see there are areas that actually correspond to the different colored regions, right? So you can see as I'm selecting them in the tree, we can see that it's selecting areas in the viewport, and we can actually change the colors of those areas, right? So if I go over to appearances, right? So we can see the blue regions. I can go over and change that here to green color. So if I, wanted to just kind of mess around, a lot of times I'll use this color slider just to see, it's sort of the different types of color options. If I'm not exactly sure, which way I want to go with it. And I was mentioning earlier, you can see, with different scenes, there's the 3-point faded. I have certain environments that are available to me. I have a certain backplate. So, when we talk about the environment, that's kind of, affecting really the coloring, the way that the surrounding environment bounces off of the surface, and certainly that affects the coloration. And then the backplate, you can think of it as really what we see. Almost think of it as like a JPEG, right? We have a JPEG in the background, and that's effectively what we're looking at here with this sort of grayish gradient. Now, cool thing here, if I go to my library section, it's just the 5th tab over, I can actually gain access to different environments, right? Which is again affecting, different casting of the light and the shadows against the object in question, which is the aircraft in this case. Or I can go over to plates. In this case, it'll be an and, right? I'm going to go environments and then also change the back plate. So in environments, you can see, even locally, there are others available in a cloud repository. I have different environments that I can drag and drop into the viewport area that certainly give the aircraft a different look. So you can see this one's called Salt Flats. Gives it obviously a darker tone. And then if I go over to the plates area, see there's a corresponding one called Salt Flats. Drag that in. Backplate, cool. And I don't really love the orientation here, so I'm actually going to go back to the models area, click on the topmost option, go back to transform, and I'm actually going to change maybe more exactingly some of the positioning. So you'll see there's position X, Y, Z. These options are useful, these 3 buttons, right, where you can kind of go 90 degrees, just flipping it. But if you wanted to get more exacting control, you can actually just go down here, an easier way to do that. All right, so let's say, here I want to do 0.6. All right, so that's positioning, and then we can rotate it as well. So this is actually going to change that a bit. General. All right, so let's say I wanted to kind of have it right up there in the sky. You can see I can zoom, pan, so I'm doing my middle mouse control. I want to zoom out even more.
Looks like really cool.
Yeah, so this looks like, if I would, by the way, Nadiro, I would love to be out in a field and or wherever this is. I don't even know. I mean, this looks like a really neat, like almost looks like a different planet. I would love to be here flying this model here. So this would be cool, of course, for our own purposes, let's say, I wanted to make a desktop wallpaper, I could do that. Or if I wanted to make an image for a website, let's say I wanted to start trying to sell these on Etsy as toys. Like I said, my kids would love to play with a toy like this. We could certainly do that. So however I wanted to have it, I could have it this way. Right now it's just in the preview mode. If I wanted to even look even more accurate, which would be more evident if I was zoomed in, I can make it render accurately. So we'll see the shadows take a little bit more effect. I go to Output Tools. Then I could render it to our custom live design folder. So I'll say aircraft. Output resolution, could change that. And then we could also change the number of passes. So this will improve quality. I want it to be about 300 passes at the render. And then I can do start render. Okay. So inevitably, that's actually going to render out to that folder. You'll see that's kind of a preview that we're getting now. We have a progress bar. And when this is done, I'm going to actually go into the folder and just show you guys what it looks like. So that was pretty easy, right? Basically went in. In Visualize Connected, if it's stored in the cloud, you could basically just go to open from 3D Experience and just get the file that way. But hey, especially if it's a maker project, I'm not worried about lifecycle managing it. Like we talked about yesterday, making sure our products are revisioned and controlled properly. If it's just something for fun, a really easy way to transfer a file, bring it in, and then can make a rendering between 2 users. So click that, click the folder, brings me right to my live design folder. Double click there, and yeah, there we go. So it looks like it's actually flying in the sky on an overcast day. Visualize, super cool tool. A lot of different assets you can plug and play in there. You can bring in your own backplates too. So yeah, very cool tool to be able to use for this project. So yeah, Nadiro, I think we went through quite a bit there. I think one thing I want to jump back over to again is our, not just our conversation, but just to give you another shout out, thank you so much for jumping on. We're about the top of the hour here. Want to thank you all for tuning in. So I see you have two handles, by the way. So there's Solid Nadiro, which obviously has a lot of cool content. We have your fan design there, as well as a lot of other cool designs. Like we talked about this Moon Knight head modeling in X shape with the playlist link there. Uh, so you have another looks like another Instagram here, Mr. Nadiro.
Yes.
Which one's a better follow? If you're only going to follow one, would you rather have somebody follow Solid
My
Nadiro or Mr. Nadiro?
my favorite account is Solid Nadiro.
Okay, cool. I noticed I noticed you had a pretty cool intro on your YouTube channel where it's kind of looks like this. But yeah, follow that. And then again, your YouTube channel where we see maybe a more built out version of the model aircraft there. You could follow along with that. Make sure you subscribe just like I did at the beginning of the episode there. And yeah, I think we're good. Any other shout outs while we're still here? Any other areas that you want to have people follow, or I guess your user group, right?
Yes.
So what's the name of your user group?
Turkey user group. You can search the YouTube site.
Yes, go
I sent the link.
So yeah, SolidWorks YouTube channel just posted your Instagram as well. So here, just while we're here, let me go in and grab that link you just sent me.
Yes, I
sent it in the conversation there.
Yes.
Funny, these days there's so many areas that you could be talking to someone in. Cool. You sent me another design, other X-shape renders. This looks awesome. Look at all these. We'll have to cycle through these. I'll get back to these in just a second, just sharing my screen. But yeah, Turkey SolidWorks user group. So you got your YouTube channel right there. So these, I assume these are some of your past meetings.
Yes.
That you've had. Cool. Awesome. So DriveWorks one, another SolidWorks one. That's awesome.
Maybe one day you can join us.
I would love to. I would love to. Maybe we can be on opposite sides. You can be the host and I'll present something.
Okay.
I would love to do that. So, let's take a look at some of these renderings just as we close out. And thanks for sending these along. So some other X-shape renderings here. Very cool. Very nice. So just to be clear, all X-shape designs that you then pulled into Visualize and spent the time trying to orient and you can see some effusion out of the cockpit there. It looks really nice. You got the X-shape logo I noticed and the platform logo on this one.
Yes.
A couple different views. Yeah, these look really cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, again, you guys have Nadiro's links in the YouTube chat area. Be sure to subscribe, follow with all of his content. Make sure you have your YouTube meetings virtually. Just to be clear about that too, right? If you're in Turkey, I'm sure that's great. But if you're not, just like Joe Lance, maybe you're in Italy, maybe you're like me, you're in Pennsylvania. You can tune in with those, but. Nadiro, thank you so much for being a SolidWorks champion. Thank you so much for being a user group leader. And most relevantly to us here today, thank you so much for being a guest on SolidWorks Live Design.
Thank you so much too.
For sure. So I just wanted to show as we head out here, just one more shout out. I mentioned we have live design episodes pretty frequently, maybe every other week. Sometimes it kind of falls to where we have one, on successive weeks. But we do have SolidWorks Live as well, which runs, if you're interested in learning about the latest and greatest when it comes to SolidWorks software, it's the best place to go. And I mentioned yesterday we had our What's New SolidWorks 2023 launch episode. So if you go on our YouTube channel today, you can catch up, follow along with the live chat as it was yesterday, but it's about an hour and a half worth of Some really cool stuff. And of course, make sure to go to solidworks.com/what's new to see all the different demos. Or you can go to solidworks.com/2023 events to see what your VAR partner in your area has in store, either online or in person, where, that's just it's a deeper dive, not only into the technology, but the networking opportunities. You can meet your partners in your area. You can also, meet with others in your industry, which is a great thing to do for professional and business development purposes. So either way, just a lot to take in there. And once again, as always, thank you guys so much for jumping on here on Live Design, and we'll catch up with you next time. Take care.